Yo, what is up, guys? It is Nick with the Notorious Fantasy, back again today with another fantasy football video. In today's video, I got you guys the Week 17 waiver wire ads. Now, before I get in the video, I'd like to wish you guys a Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays, whatever holiday you celebrate. I hope you have a great time with your family this week, and I hope you guys just have a great rest of the week. Obviously, a lot of you guys are done. It's Week 17 now. A lot of people finishing Week 16, but I will continue to make the videos in Week 17 for those of you who play in Week 17 championship. So before I get in the video, I'd like to give you guys a word from my friends and my sponsor over at OverlayDFS.com. OverlayDFS.com is my favorite way to play daily fantasy sports. Now, obviously, you guys are fantasy football guys. You love the NFL, but Overlay DFS also offers NBA games. I've been getting more recently into NBA for when the NFL season ends, and my sorrows of playing fantasy football are there. I love fantasy basketball as well on OverlayDFS.com, but we're going to talk about football here because this is a fantasy football channel. Now, there is a couple of game modes you can play on this website, but my favorite game is the progressive game. This week, the main progressive game is $22 entry, and the top 10% win 9 times your buy-in, which is $180. But if you hit the beautiful 12-0, you can win over $11,000, and it's going to continue to rise all the way until kickoff. It could be well over that by the time Sunday begins. So let's go into it, and let me show you guys how this works. It is very simple. You make 12 picks plus 3 alternate picks in case any injuries type or something like that has to happen, where that some games get voided. Now, right here, it's very, very simple. It is just one player versus another. Who scores more fantasy points? Anyone could do it. Even someone like me can. It's pretty easy. Drew Brees versus Ryan Tannehill. Dak Prescott versus Carson Wentz. Baker Mayfield versus Sam Darnold. Who scores many or more fantasy points? And there are many, many more options. So make sure you guys check out OverlayDFS.com. Link down below in the description. We are back. Make sure to check out OverlayDFS.com. Link down below in the description. Let's get right in the video. Week 17 waiver wire ads. The number one waiver wire ad for me at the running back position is Gus Bus Edwards of the Baltimore Ravens. Now, he plays up against the Pittsburgh Steelers this week, a defense that is pretty good, but I think that Gus Edwards will be able to expose it based on sheer volume. Ingram will not play this week. Obviously, they were without Lamar Jackson and a few other players as well, but I still think that that doesn't mean that the play calling won't be similar. Lamar Jackson, RG3, similar type of players. Obviously, Lamar Jackson a million times better, but with that said, they can still run the same kind of plays, read option, run plays, all this shit that would work with Lamar Jackson, and Mark Ingram will work with RG3 and Gus Edwards. So I think that he is a big game this week without Mark Ingram. Week 16 against the Cleveland Browns, when Mark Ingram got hurt in that game, he got 12 touches for 66 yards plus 1 reception for 7 yards and 1 fumble for 8.3 PPR points. That is a pretty good game coming in relief late into the game up against a Cleveland Browns defense. Next running back here is DeAndre Washington, running back of the Oakland Raiders. And if Josh Jacobs does not play this week, he will be a great fill-in. We saw last week when Josh Jacobs was out up against the LA Superchargers, he got 23 touches for 85 yards and 1 touchdown, plus 2 catches for 21 yards, 18.6 PPR points. An absolutely dominant game from DeAndre Washington. And I think you do the exact same thing to the Denver Broncos this week. The Broncos defense last week didn't look amazing up against the Lions. I think that they may get pushed over here by the Oakland Raiders. Next running back here is Kerryon Johnson, running back of the Detroit Lions. Now, he averages 10.5 PPR points in this season in 7 games, but, you know, it's really 6 games because in the one game he got hurt and he got hit. He was down, out early in the game. So last week he played okay. Week 16 up against the Denver Broncos, 10 touches for 42 yards and 1 catch for 1 yard, 5.3 PPR points. I know that isn't a huge game, but I think the volume increases in this game. They were easing him in. Now they're going to stick the whole thing in there. Week 17 up against the Green Bay Packers. I think that he could be a workhorse in this game, getting a bunch of touches. Now I know what you might be thinking. Nick, last week, Mike Boone, you're the guy you were touting to be really good. He didn't do anything up against the Green Bay Packers, and this week Kerryon plays the Green Bay Packers, so there's potential that he plays bad as well. Don't you know that, Nick, you fucking idiot? Well, the thing is, week 17 on the waiver wire, there aren't very many running backs to add. And a guy with as much talent as Kerryon Johnson, and a guy that could be seeing as many touches as Kerryon Johnson, is definitely worth a pickup for me this week. Now on to the final running back of the video. Now, if you guys have enjoyed the video thus far, please make sure to click that subscribe button down below. But we got Marshawn Lynch, running back of the Seattle Seahawks. Darren Sharper, hold my dick. Marshawn Lynch signed with Seattle yesterday. Now, we could hop into a great roll this week. He is a bit risky. You are rolling the dice, throwing him at the wall, and hoping you hit the snake eyes, the double sixes. Maybe that's not the snake eyes. Maybe that's just 2 1s. I'm not too sure. But he is a bit risky because at the end of the day, we haven't seen Marshawn play in a couple of years. He used to play with the Raiders a few years ago. Then he stopped playing. Is he in game shape? Could he go ham up against the 49ers? I believe he could get enough touches to go ham up against the 49ers with Chris Carson out and all these other running backs just dead on their team. It's him and Mr. Turbine, and we know Mr. Turbine is not that good. So up against the 49ers, I really think that Marshawn Lynch could put up a big game. He is certainly very risky, the most risky out of any of those guys out there. But if he is in game shape, you could see a skull fucking coming from Marshawn Lynch this week against the San Francisco 49ers. Now into the running back portion, or the wide receiver portion of the video, I should say. We got Deontay Johnson, wide receiver of the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, Ducky Duck Hodges is back at the quarterback position for the Steelers. Last week, he was in, then he was out. Now, Mason Rudolph on the IR for being a fucking idiot. Deontay Johnson played great last week, week 16 up against the New York Football Jets. 8 of 9 for 81 yards and 1 touchdown, 22.1 PPR points. So not an amazing game from Deontay Johnson, but definitely something actually, that is an amazing game, if I'm being completely honest with you. For Deontay Johnson, that is the best game that motherfucker has played in his whole career. And he got a lot of targets. Now, the thing is, I would say that the game could be better if Juju Smith-Schuster was not playing in the game. Now, Juju last week did nothing. I expect him to do a bit more this week, so that kind of scares me a bit for Deontay Johnson, especially going against the Ravens defense. But I would assume a lot of this Ravens defense might not be in this game, and I think that Deontay Johnson may be able to go hard in the motherfucking paint in this game. Next wide out here is Cole Beasley, wide receiver of the Buffalo Bills. He averages 12.3 PPR points on the season, which is actually pretty good. He has been a very, very safe wide receiver all season long, and I think that this game up against whoever the fuck they're playing this week could be a great play for Cole Beasley. He is a very, very, very safe option. The one thing I do worry about, though, is if they get up and if they just realize, you know what, fuck it, we'll just play Josh Allen half the game, then maybe Cole Beasley doesn't play as well. And that is definitely something you will have to worry about. But at the end of the day, I think Cole Beasley will be a safe option, whether it's Josh Allen or the backup in this game. He played really well last week, actually, against a tough New England defense, a defense I thought might be able to shut Cole Beasley completely down. 7 of 12 for 108 yards, which is 17.8 PPR points. A great game for Cole Beasley. He's had a lot of really good games in a row now. I know he had one game a few weeks ago that was an absolute fucking stinker, but the last couple of games have been quite good, so I do like Cole Beasley yet again this week. Now to the next wide receiver here, one of 2 wide receivers I'm going to be talking about from the same team of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Brashad Perryman. Evans and Godwin out, obviously, you know that. He has played amazing week 15 up against the Detroit Lions and had 3 solid games, and then built upon that week 16. Now, I wouldn't say that his first game was that solid. Week 13 up against the Jacksonville Jaguars, 5 of 6 for 87 yards, 13.7 PPR points. Sure, that's a pretty good game, but the next 3 weeks, he has been on fucking fire. Week 14 up against the Indianapolis Colts, 3 of 6 for 70 yards and 1 touchdown, 16 PPR points. Week 15 up against the Detroit Lions, 5 of 6 for 113 yards and 3 touchdowns, 34.6 PPR points. And last week up against the Houston Texans, even with Winston looking like a goddamn idiot, Perryman also dropped multiple balls in this game that could have been long balls, could have been touchdowns, could have added to his yardage category, and even given him a touchdown. Week 16 up against the Houston Texans, 7 of 12 for 102 yards, 17.2 PPR points. So I think he could even do better this week up against the Atlanta Falcons, a sorry-ass defense. This is a very juicy matchup for Brashad Perryman. I think that he goes balls deep in this defense this week. Knock one time if you are indeed with me. Next wide receiver here is Justin Watson. Justin Jackson is the running back of the LA Chargers. Justin Watson, wide receiver of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Now, he got involved last week against the Houston Texans. It actually looks pretty good. I think this week, obviously, it's a great matchup against the Atlanta Falcons, like I just said. I think, obviously, Perryman is the better bet, but Watson, if he's available, it could be a great flex play on the week. Last 3 games, week 14 up against the Indianapolis Colts, 5 receptions on 8 targets for 59 yards and 1 touchdown, 16.9 PPR points. Week 15 up against the Detroit Lions. 2 receptions on 12 targets for 17 yards, 3.7 PPR points. I know that's a bad game, but then he took that L. He bounced back Week 16 up against the Houston Texans. 5 receptions on 10 targets for 43 yards and 1 touchdown, 15.3 PPR points. Now, I know last week Perryman and Watson were actually dropping a lot of balls or not getting the ball thrown clearly to them. Now, Watson had one play where it looked like he was wide fucking open. He was going to score this touchdown, and he stumbled. His legs got a bit shaky. He was running the ball. He went, and he fucking dropped. He just couldn't catch up to the ball, and he would have had 2 touchdowns on the game, likely with that play, and put up an even bigger game. But I still think that Justin Watson has a great game this week up against the Atlanta Falcons, and I really like him as a waiver wire pickup on the week. Next, we are on to the tight end portion of the video, and if you guys have enjoyed thus far and you did not subscribe earlier, you just realized, you know what, Nick, now I actually enjoy the video. Click that subscribe button. If you guys have been here for a while, please click that like button. Now, with Zach Ertz banged up, I like Dallas Goedert on this week, tight end of the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, Ertz will likely play. In my opinion, his ribs, he hurt the ribby ribs. They might be a bit fucked up, but I think he has to play because the Eagles really need to win this game unless the Cowboys obviously lose. And the fucking wide receivers on the the Philadelphia Eagles are just terrible. God awful. None of them are there. These guys have butter on their fingers. They can't catch the ball. They have feet for hands. It is unbelievable. Goddard and Ertz are really the only options out there. And with Ertz banged up, I think that does detract on some of his snaps. I think Goddard will start seeing more snaps. And even with not that many snaps, well, actually Goddard's getting a lot of snaps, but even with less snaps than Ertz, he's still been eating. Week 15 up against the Washington Redskins. 5 receptions on 6 targets for 55 yards, 10.5 PPR points. Week 16 up against the Dallas Cowboys. 9 receptions on 12 targets. You heard that correct, folks. 12 fucking targets for 91 yards and 1 touchdown, 24.1 PPR points. A great game from Dallas Goedert, and I think he builds upon that yet again and has yet another big game this week. And now on to the final waiver wire ad and the final tight end for Week 17. If you have any questions about any other guys that you were thinking about adding, please make sure to leave them down below in the comment section. I will tell you what I think about those players. Now, this is O.J. Howard, tight end of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Now, he did not have the greatest game last week, but he has a great matchup this week up against the Falcons, like I've said for all the other Tampa Bay players. Now, last week, Week 16 up against the Houston Texans, he went 3 of 7 for 46 yards, 7.6 PPR points. Now, I know that doesn't sound that great, but he definitely had a lot of opportunities. If he had caught a couple of those balls, his yardage would be completely different. He would probably have like 80, 90, maybe even 100 yards because he was just wide open on a lot of these plays, and the ball was just not hitting him correctly, or he was just dropping it because he's just, kind of dumb. But I think that at the end of the day, he has a better game this week up against the Falcons. His last 4 games have been pretty good, though. Pretty safe type of play at the position. Week 13 against the Jacksonville Jaguars, 5 of 6 for 61 yards, 11.1 PPR points. Week 14 up against the Indianapolis Colts, 4 of 5 for 73 yards, 11.3 PPR points. Week 15 up against the Detroit Lions, 4 of 7 for 46 yards, 8.6 PPR points. At Week 16 up against the Houston Texans, like I said, 3 of 7 for 46 yards and 7.6 PPR points. I really think that game could have been much better, though. So thank you guys all for watching this video. If at any point you ended up enjoying, please make sure to click that subscribe button down below. Check out overlaydfs.com. Link down below in the description. Check out one of the videos that's also on the screen somewhere over here. I love you all. Have a great rest of your day. Merry fucking Christmas. Happy holidays. Check out overlaydfs.com. Link down below in the description. I love you all. Goodbye.